It's an honor part of CTF. All those who've joined us late, let me first introduce you about what actually ECDF is and what is the mission behind it. Well, it is to empower educators, parents, children, and other stakeholders by sensitizing them and then facilitating them with the training programs, awareness campaigns, leadership programs. The workshops, seminars, and webinars, community activities, all to bring all the preschools, NGOs, children activity centers, parent educators, the Bagalwaris, the Anganwaris, the corporate entities, media houses together and to understand what it actually means to change the complete domain of early childhood care and education. Well, it's a platform where we ideate, initiate, innovate, and implement the best practices in ECCE. Thank you so very much, Dr. Wasawi. Thank you so very much, the ECDF team, for giving us this opportunity for being here together this afternoon. I think it's been a wonderful day. What a start when we, actually started. It was so much excitement, and I think it's nothing going away from us. Well, let me carry forward to all the speakers without wasting any time, because I know one thing that is very precious today is the time that we have. But yes, of course. Conversations about the importance of early childhood education have been circulating for quite some time, but more and more studies are coming to light that reveal potential learning disparities between students who reap the benefits of early childhood education and those who didn't. Needless to say, the topic has become more prevalent than ever. Educator, politicians, parents, everyone has become active participant in this discussion as our nation is in search of the best educational opportunities for our smallest citizens. Well, this can be a long way and a long discussion to move ahead. Not taking much of your time, I would definitely like to thank a few important people here before we start with the next set of the people. Yes, our sponsors: Child Education and Development Research Center, Supermind, Rich, Famous, and Great Minds, Vasu, Talent Search, Tender Petals, Nurturing the Unique Journey. And today I have the privilege to present yet another great speaker who's amongst us. I have on my team Mr. Ananth Krishnan. Well, I have heard him. I have been in with him on the webinar again on ECTF and has been in learning with him. And I hope that it's going to be a learning today again. Over to you, Mr. Ananth Krishnan, who's a mind development uh, coach. He is going to talk about powerful parenting versus weak parenting. Well, parents usually mean well. Ultimately, all they want is for their children to grow into good, happy, and successful human beings. And in this quest for a good future for their children, parents adopt different parenting techniques, which fine, really. But when you look at the effects of different styles of parenting, it is easy to tell some methods are better than others. Some work and yield good results, while other parenting styles might not prove to be the right way to raise children. Well, let me invite Mr. Ananth Krishnan, who's going to talk elaborately about the topic, mind development. Well, there's a little time constraint, so I would definitely request all my speakers to be well in time. You've got 8 minutes. It is all yours.
Thank you so much, ECDF and Dr. Wasavi, and nice introductions for Lean. And thank you all the dignitaries from different parts of the world. Two challenges here. One is speaking at 3 o'clock in India time, which is a nap time. So I have to ensure that I make it very interesting and add value to whosoever is attending. Number two, as Swarleen mentioned, is the time factor. We have so much to say in so much limited time. So I've been given the subject of parenting. Parenting is something which I believe has not been spoken about right from the morning. We have been speaking about children, their methods of teaching and all that. Parenting is a very unique thing, and it's a very common thing across the group. It is something like smile, something like love. It is universal. But at the same time, parenting comes with a challenge. There is no standard operating procedure. I heard Raina now speaking about standard operating procedures and policies, but unfortunately for parenting, we don't have any standard operating policies or procedures. What we do when we become the parent, my father and my parents have brought me up this way. Let me also bring up my children the same way. My friend is bringing up their children that way, so let me also bring up. So it's a very challenging thing. But as times have advanced and technology has advanced and people have become more conscious and more knowledgeable, the things have evolved and so many things have come up and so many tools are available to the current parenting to progress the child and group the child and nurture in the right direction. But there are certain things still I would rather change the subject matter, powerful parenting versus weak parenting. I would rather say powerful parenting versus ignorant parents, because there are so many tools currently available which I just explained to you. There are, how many of you know, there are tools which can actually measure the mindset of a child and able to find out the natural abilities and mental strength of the child through a program called Unlock and Intelliton. So these are kind of things which gives a number to focus factor of a child, decision making ability of a child through the activities which are very interesting and fun related. Apart from that, the most important thing is it also builds the powerful parental bonding, because the parent has to get involved in these activities and then build these activities and guide the child to do that. So that is the very, very, very unique thing. And this is internationally acclaimed, scientifically validated product which I am talking about. So that is why I say it is powerful parenting versus ignorant parenting. So it is not weak parenting. So they have become weak possibly because they are not even aware that such a product is aware. So this could be used. So when it comes to comparison, it becomes very easy to convey the subject matter and the essence of the subject matter. When there are two things, powerful and weak, no, it becomes easy to say which is powerful and why it is powerful. Because I have to just boost the weaker side and say that this is what is the parental power thing. So what is it that is different from weak parenting and or ignorant parenting and power parenting? Most of the time the parents identify the weakness of the child and start building around the weakness and say, oh, this child is weak on this, let us work on the weakness. So this is primarily the ignorant and the weak parenting starts. But the powerful parenting focus on the strength of the child. Oh, this is what is the strength of the child. It is kinesthetic, it is logical, so let me work and build on that. So this is what differentiate between the power parenting and the weak parenting. So how to identify the strength? So that is where the tool of Unlock and Intelliton, which I mentioned some time back, will help you to identify the strength of the child and win. And in weak parenting, what they believe is normally not only weak parenting. Most of the parents whom they want, every parent wants their child to become, famous, rich, progressive, and very good citizens. So they feel the child has to be an all-rounder. You should be good in karate, you should be good in piano, you should be good in academics, and then they focus on everything and try to make him all-rounder. But a powerful parent is smart. He knows, and he knows very well that being specializing in a particular field with a particular child is what will make him or her progress better, and become successful, famous, and rich, which is what specialization really matters and works wonders once you focus on the strength and specialize on that. So these are the things. In weak parenting, what happens is they are actually confused. They are confused between scores and talent. They believe that academically, if you get a good score, oh, okay, he's doing well. At the same time, they tend to ignore the fact there is something called talent which is there in the child, and they are not able to identify and tap on it and build on it from a very early age. So coming to the powerful parent, what he does is he recognizes the natural ability of the child at from a very early age, and the talent also is tapped, and then he starts bringing up the talent and the mental strength and ensures that the child grows and nurtures in that. So this is what I just want to present to you. So I think I have stuck to the time. So I think I'm the odd man out here as well. And this powerful parenting has made some sense to you. No slideshow. So this is the simple and soft message. So thank you so much again, Dr. Wasabi and ECDF, for giving me this opportunity in all the dignitaries. I hope I added some value and made you, wake up and please listen to my value addition speech. Thank you so much.
In spite of, we're running short of time. I think you were so quick and was so prompt and were actually to the point. I like the way you told us, how actually it is to focus on what is the need of the hour. And rather than doing that helicopter parenting or just rushing after them, what is required is to look into their psyche as well. Thank you so very much for putting these answers. And definitely you need an applause for getting on time. And, that's the power of the speaker, how to control his message. And I really adore those people who really look up to that time.
Thank you so much, Shirley.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Next, we have on our list, again, a person who's a speaker, not only a speaker, I must say, one who can influence other people. We have on our list Nathan Fry from China. Are you there?
I'm here. I'm ready to share. I'm not sure if I can share my PPT. I might need somebody to give me the permission.
Yeah, definitely. Can we please check?
If somebody can.
Yeah, sure.
Give me permission.
Yeah. We have Mr. Nathan Fry from China who's going to talk about improving learners' agency in the early years. So you can share your screen, please.
You give me one moment. I'm very sorry. I don't know why it's not sharing. Never mind. I will follow the speaker before me's lead, and I will go PPT-less. I think that was a good approach. So my main question this morning is, what is agency, especially in the early years environment? So initially, in my perspective, as someone who teaches the Chinese curriculum and the International Baccalaureate curriculum, it involves three parts. So the first one is having a voice. The second is having a choice. And the third is having ownership. And this applies to the children. So how can we make sure that they have a voice? The first one is give them decisions. The second is let them accept the responsibility for the outcomes of that decision. The third is let them identify their own problems and then generate the solutions themselves. And the last one is contribute to life. So whatever contributions they're wanting to make, let's give them that voice. The second is the choice, which is, can they self-regulate and make positive choices? Can they follow their own passions? And then can they choose friends and peers that will challenge them? So not just friends that agree with them, but can they, from an early age, start to go towards the other children that will extend them and challenge them? And then the third one is the ownership. So this is where they're pursuing their interests and passions in innovative ways, sharing works and exhibiting ideas. So this is the main part I would have shown you on my PPT, is the questions. So it's more of a challenge to you as the audience, parents, teachers, educators, but you can answer them in your own way, in your own perspective. So for me in China, I'll have my own answer. For you in India or England or wherever in the world you are, hopefully you have your own answers too. So the first one is, how do you involve children with establishing routines? So when they're going to eat, when they're going to bed, what part did your child play in that? Did they have any say? Did they get an opinion? The second one is, what perspective do you have on assessment is something that you can do with your child, not to them? So are we assessing them for our benefit or their benefit? How do we make it something, especially in the early years, that they're involved with? My third question is, what connections can you make between agency and highly achieving students? This doesn't have to just be academically, it could be emotionally, but how do you connect highly achieving students and agency? My fourth question is, what is your perspective on having a creative learning day? Can you drop your curriculum or not? Maybe you can't. In China, we have a fairly set curriculum, but within that, we can provide opportunities for learning days, especially creative learning days. And then the last question is, And it's a perspective one. So what is your perspective on, I tried to take things that my child is usually obliged to participate in and found a way to make them optional. So how can you start to create options for things that you don't want to provide an option for? You want your child to eat, but how can you provide that as an option? You want your child to go and learn a language, but how can you make it optional? And how can you make them create their own choices? So the answers to those 5 questions are personal for you, personal for the teachers here, personal for every individual, and especially depending on your circumstances. But the more that we can provide the children the power, the more they will learn, the more it will become authentic. Often the word authentic is used, but agency is the way to get there. Okay. And then, so I'm just going to go through a few little parts now. So voice, for me, the easiest way to give more voice is to let children voice their own questions, voice their own innovations, and voice their own ideas. And as a teacher or a parent, I can listen to their view, I can challenge their work and I can question them. I can model voicing an idea. So I can show my own ideas and I can set a good example. And then the last part of that is I can provide time. In our schedules, often we don't provide time for the children to voice their ideas. And that doesn't just mean presenting what I want to see, presenting their own ideas. Can they question us? Can they challenge us? Can they extend our curriculum? Okay, our next part is choice. So children can choose their own challenges, choose their own materials, choose their own solution, and choose their own methods. So in my PPT, if it would have shown up, there is a picture of me having a tug of war competition with my entire class. So their question was, are we stronger than the teacher? Well, the only way to find that out is to make an experiment. So they've designed their own experiment. They decided they wanted to do a tug of war, a physical challenge, 1 versus 25. Let's put it into place. But then the important part as a teacher or a parent is to reflect on the outcome, follow those ideas further, provide the resources, and teach the skills to assist with what they're trying to do. So if often we can use agency as a way, I'm just going to let my children do it. Maybe a more Montessori approach is let them do it. But for a Chinese curriculum and an international curriculum, we would definitely say to teach those skills first. Give them the ability to take it on their own. And then the last one, and the most important part, is ownership. This is where the authenticity comes from. So children can own their work, they can own their ideas, they can own their daily routines, and they can own their life skills. And as a parent or a teacher, we can give time for children to attempt their own work. We can accept and understand mistakes, and failed attempts are a great learning tool. And then we can enjoy children become more independent, and we can have fun following their imagination. So at this point, I will just go back to my questions before I leave you. Hopefully I've been nice and quick too. So firstly is, how can you involve children with establishing routines? The next one is, what is your perspective on the idea of assessment as something you do with children and not to them? What connections can you make between agency and highly achieving students? What is your perspective on having a creative learning day instead of structured additional lessons? And then finally, what is your perspective on, I tried to take things that my child is usually obliged to participate in, and I found a way to make them optional. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, ECDF. Hopefully you guys have some answers of your own for those challenging questions.
Thank you so very much, Nathan Fry, for putting those questions, because they'll really make us, introspect ourselves and then come back with answers. In fact, anybody who has some queries can please put up in the chat box so that he can give the answers to it. Well, it was such a learning session, wherein there were so many questions that have made us think again about the perspective. Thank you so very much, and thanks for being in time. Next on my list is Linda Rose from Sri Lanka. Early education, she says, programs for mental well-being in times of disaster. Well, mental health is a positive concept related to the social and emotional well-being of individuals and communities. Having good mental health or being mentally healthy is more than just the absence of illness. Rather, it's a state of overall well-being, and good mental health helps you enjoy life and cope up with problems. It offers a feeling of well-being and inner strength. Just as you take care of your body by eating right and exercising, you can do things to protect your mental health. In fact, eating right and exercising can help maintain good mental health. Well, this is just the intro. Let's see what our next speaker has for us. Over to you, Linda Rose. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. I shall try sharing my screen. Okay, can people see that? Just give me a brilliant. Okay, lovely. So thank you very much for inviting me, Dr. Vaishali, and thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Swaleen. I've been working in Sri Lanka since the tsunami. Before that, I was working in the UK, and I come and go between. At the moment, I'm actually stuck in the UK, unfortunately, with COVID and coronavirus. So I'm going to whiz through. Please do take screenshots if there's particular slides with lots of words, because I'm very aware of the time. And so I'm going to very quickly skip through and talk more practically. So again, I was there for the tsunami, and some of you may sadly recognize some of these images. Unfortunately, there was also the civil war in Sri Lanka. That aftermath of civil war takes a very long time to come out, and finished in 2009. So I spent quite a while working with agencies, and still am there. In the UK, there was a very sad incident of a tower, a block of flats that went up in flames and caused a lot of trauma that is still ongoing. And of course, right now we have the coronavirus, which is impacting on the whole of the world. So very quickly, I'm not going to go into the science. We've had fantastic, superb speakers talking about all different aspects of development. But just to remind ourselves about the danger and the impact of different kinds of trauma on the brain, especially for young children, where we're actually looking at their development. So the brain is needing as much support in order to develop and connect together properly. So where there is kind of trauma, there's going to be problems in that development that can last right through to adulthood. The good news is some things can actually heal and support young people and children, especially young children, before they reach adulthood. I always say young children are like clay. They're still developing, and whatever you put into them, you can mold and support and heal those broken parts. When you get to adulthood, it's very difficult. It's like set clay. And if you try and sort of press and mold and change things, then the chances actually somebody will either not change, or they can actually break and find it very difficult to go back. So again, very quickly, because this will be things that people already know and it's already been covered, but the visible effects of trauma. So as parents and as educators, you look mainly for changes in behavior, because obviously the traumas that I've spoken about are the whole community knows about them. But there may well be hidden traumas, sexual abuse, impacts of poverty, impacts of parental drinking or drugs, things that you don't necessarily know have happened. But you can also spot these traumas inside children by noticing changes of behavior. So sleep patterns, food eating, whether they eat more or less, whether they're sleeping more or less, being hypervigilant and consciously on the watch. Some dissociation where actually in order to cope with the trauma, the child, and this happens with older people too, dissociate. In other words, the emotions and the mind separates almost from the body, like an out-of-body experience. This is a very important thing to work with when we're trying to heal and support children with mental health problems. Separation anxiety, loss of interest and concentration, and lack of motivation. We're seeing a lot of those things because of COVID. So these are triggers, and these help us recognize when somebody needs a little bit of extra support. I'm only going to spend a second on this. I love my Russian dolls because they show so many examples of different things. In a positive environment, the child will be protected by multi-layers of support. That's the ideal situation. You'll have the child in the center with the nuclear family, the extended family, the community, whether it's a religious community or a geographical one. And then it goes out into the town, into the city, into the country. And there should be all these forms and layers of protection so that the child ideally grows up beautifully and in joyful happiness, including the laws of the country that protect them and again, with things like COVID, hopefully have strategies that will protect the child physically and mentally. Sadly, this doesn't always happen. So there's 3 different areas that we want to work with. The first is before a tragedy happens. Now, you can't always plan for that. So obviously, there are certain tragedies you can't help. But there are many things that we know have a certain risk or likelihood in life. So, for example, fires, family fires in your home or fires in situations. We should be taking fire practices, which schools mostly do. But what about in the home? Families don't think of that. They don't want to raise a worry or a fear in a child. But actually, practicing in a fun way and making it a normal situation can be very important. I encourage tsunami preparation. I do a lot of training. You can see one of them with the teachers with pieces of material playing at that. In Sri Lanka, the tsunami is still a real trauma among the adults. But what that means is they're not training the next generation, or we're not training the next generation to actually be prepared. A tsunami is unfortunately a likelihood. So add it into your play, add it into what you're doing, and make it fun. When the material, which is the water, gets a bit higher, what do you do? And it's about water safety as well. So as it gets bigger and bigger, then you jump out of the water. If it comes out in a big wave, because that was what caught a lot of people in the last tsunami, when it went out, people didn't know what it was. Then what do? You don't go and look at the shells and this, you actually run away, because the next thing is the water's coming. If you do this in a game, then you're having rehearsals that the children can actually use later very effectively and efficiently. It will click into something, but they're not traumatized. They're not worrying always they're going to be a tsunami, because you've done it in a fun way. And we have to do it at the children's level. So that's very important. During a tragedy, that's extremely difficult. And especially then during tragedy like COVID, which is going on, and especially in India, very hard hit. UK had it very badly earlier on with, thousands dying a day. And again, giving the children some sense of normality, some sense of reassurance. Touch, the senses are very important. Smell. Positive smells can actually help somebody when they're having a panic attack, when they're feeling very nervous. Smell can actually overpower the senses in a positive way. So if you have scented plants and things like that, you can actually crush them. You can be reading stories. You can be humming. I was working with one family at the end of the war, and they had been moved into a refugee centre, but against Red Cross advice, you could still hear the bombs. And really the only advice that could be given to somebody with a small baby is to sing into the ear, sing and hold, and really give that nurture, the physical touch and the sound. And also the heart rate of the adult will then focus on the child and calm. And that's easy to say and very difficult to do. But those kind of things are to prevent the child from the experience of what's happening outside, to almost cotton bud them away from what's happening outside. And also, as we heard about happy educators, it's very important that as adults we try and manage our anxiety level, which again is not easy in a war zone or in COVID or other situations. But we try and compartmentalize ourselves as adults in order to give the child full attention for their needs. So emotional safety, that physical touch, is so important. The aftermath is what we nearly always end up working with. So first of all, acknowledging what's happened. It's a little controversial and very difficult to talk about, but after the war in 2009, people were not allowed to commemorate or allowed to rehabilitate. That was a word that was actually not officially allowed. This may get me into trouble, but that was very, very significant, because there was then you have no outlet for that grief. You have no shared grief, and community grief is very, very important. Children feel part of something bigger, and commemoration, such as lighting candles, such as doing activities together, is very, very important. So those are the 3 main areas that we need to bear in mind. Just as a very important aside, we have to work with the child where they are, but we must not do any harm. Nowadays, especially in the UK, people are pushed into having psychological help for a very short amount of time, 6 weeks. Actually, that can do far more damage, because I always tell my students that the child is like a flower bud. It's closed up. It's young and new, but when we know there's trauma, we know that there's a worm inside eating away. Now, if we pull at the petals because we want to get the worm out, we know it's healthier for the child without this worm eating away inside of it. Actually, we can damage the flower petals. What we must do is we must give the atmosphere, the environment in a flower setting, we give soil, water, sun, all those things. In a child setting, we give emotional support. We give acceptance and tolerance for the way that they're living out their pain. And when the child relaxes, is that 1 minute left? When the child relaxes, then the child will open, the child will relax with their adults, with their teachers, and they will be able to pluck out the worm. And that is one of the most important things. And sometimes educators and teachers have a better relationship than parents because the parents are so stressed about the situation, the child is afraid to talk about them. I'm really going to whiz through. Don't open wounds you can't close. Please take a screenshot of this. I would say that this is in my manual, which is freely available in my website, which I'll put on the chat as well. So there's a manual. It's also translated into Tamil and Sinhala. Again, there's different levels of play. Non-directive play is the best one, especially if you're not trained. Love and laughter is what I call my rehabilitation programs. Love is everything that gives the emotional comfort and enables the development. And laughter is freeing of the soul. So anything you're doing that does those things, doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't have to be deeply psychotherapeutic. Anything brings out that love and laughter, circle games, activities, acceptance, smiling. Those are things that all bring this love and laughter. That is all contributing to healing. Very quickly, just shooting through some pictures of the work. Again, anything that embraces the child as they are, embraces their name, embraces them, I paint their hands gold. This is a group of child soldiers in army rehabilitation. Don't forget that just because they're biologically older, they have similar feelings and emotional damage to small children. So don't stop basic play, touching things, sensory play. Older people need that to reconnect to their lives. So again, I said about the community grief. There's all sorts of books out there. Take a photograph. These are all very useful. And I worked very hard at designing my own called I'm Special, which I wrote for the children in 2009. It's been translated into Tamil and Sinhala and Arabic. You're very welcome to translate it into other languages. It's an activity book, so children can do this as a group activity and commemorate, draw people who have died, write a letter to them, and able to actually express that grief in a situation where they feel supported, embraced, and loved. Okay, I'm very aware that I've only scratched the surface, but I don't want to go on too long. So thank you very much. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandra Rose. It is amazing. And definitely that bud and flower is such a good example and a message for all of us out here. We love the love and laughter concept that you've created. And definitely we're going to put up those books in front of us someday very soon. Thank you so very much for being here.
You're welcome.
Next on my platter, I have a speaker who's going to speak about Mind Your Language. Sonal Ahuja. For most children, especially toddlers, parents' words are as good as the universal truth. Although many times parents may not realize that during an ongoing and unbearable tantrum, their child registers every word that their parent utters. Mind my words. Intentionally and unintentionally. Not only those addressed to the child, but also to those who are spoken around her. The power of parents' words over their children is often underestimated. So let's see what Sonal Ahuja has to talk about. Mind Your Language. Over to you.
Hi, thank you so much. Is my voice audible and clear? Thank you. So Linda Rose, that was wonderful. So well packed about the mental well-being of children. I was excited to see the metaphors you've used and the pictures in the end. That shows a huge amount of experience that you have had. Great. So how often do we hear this? Hello, mind your language. I'm sure in our life, each one of us do experience this. Either we listen this statement or sometimes we do convey it to somebody. So, I have always reflected on this and have found that words that we use are one of our most powerful sources of creative capabilities. Words can ignite a movement. I hope you believe in that. Words can also inspire us to rise above the adversity. Words can connect our hearts. And on the other hand, the words can destroy to the creativity that we have. The words can take us down with the self-doubt, and words can sometimes destroy relationships. So we all know how powerful words are, and yet it's scary how little attention we pay to our words. We don't realize how powerful our words are in terms of influencing the results that we are getting in life. So I'm going to help the audience today to adopt a tool that I used to use my words more consciously and help myself reach to what I wanted to create. I've always believed that one needs to be more collaborative, innovative, creative, and capable to see obstacles in a very, very different way. And I can well see from Linda's presentation how a lot of obstacles are there and still we are on it, struggling and trying to thrive. So this is all needed, to be able to transform one's life, one's relationships, teams, workplaces, and so on. And I think this is quite a mandatory aspect of life. So let's see, what is that tool that I'm talking about? So we all know that we tend to be taken away by our emotions. Sometimes we are resourceful and other times we are really, really unresourceful. Now, if it's resourceful, it's okay. But unresourceful emotions are dangerous. And this is the spot and the state of mind that requires an interruption quickly. Because in this state, we often use the words that are not right for the brain to get the signals from. So let me take you to the steps that I have for you. There are majorly two major steps. This is kind of a tool that I have applied on myself and I've done a lot of work with a lot of my clients. So step one is create an anchor. Now, anchor word, it can be anything as funny as possible. It can be abracadabra. I mean, children love it. We all love it. We can use this word as an anchor and follow a statement by, which is what I speak is what I create. So it goes like this: abracadabra, what I speak is what I create. Step two, think about your words in two ways while you speak: creative and limiting. Now, when I say creative, you can now chunk it down and check, are your words, which are creative, uplifting? Are they generative? Are they inspiring? And on the other hand, if you see the limiting, check your words. Are they negative, destructive? Are they demoralizing? Now, just understanding this difference in limiting and creative can be a really powerful tool for you. It may sound elementary, but just being conscious, are my words that I'm using taking me towards what I want, or they are taking me towards what I don't want? So you can just do this. Abracadabra, hey, wait a minute. What I speak is what I create. Make this a skill by practicing it over and over again. Now, the question is why this will work. This is going to work because the words we hear, either those spoken by someone or the ones we say to ourselves, that make up our internal dialogue, that self-talk that we all indulge in, do affect the pictures we create in our minds. And who doesn't know in this era that our brain first sees the pictures and then we convert it into language. Now, this is the time, this is particular time after knowing this whole concept to realize that why sometimes we complain. Hello, our children do exactly opposite of what we tell them to. I'm sure all of us have gone through this experience. So if you often find yourself struggling to get your words sent across to your children, it's worth checking the words you use when you self-talk. Let me just validate it for you very quickly. Suppose you had to tell your child to behave properly in a public place. It's a very common episode. And it's a challenge for you. Now, using the words, he must change his behavior, he should change his behavior, he may try to behave better in the public place, he could do that, are all the words that will create pictures in your mind that are doubtful and that are struggling and not really satisfactory. And believe me, this will not work as humans are driven by images created in their minds. So positive pictures create positive results and negative are more likely to hold you back. Now, if you have to change this, there is a need to change your words used. So in the same example that I'm giving you is if you kind of shift it to, he will definitely change his behavior. He is going to bring that change. Now, this will have altogether a very, very positive picture in your head, hence making it happen too, because our body responds to the pictures we create. So can you now resonate to what I said? Abracadabra. Hello, wait a minute. What you speak is what you create. Finally, just at the end of my talk, I know I have to take care of the time too. Let me just recap the quick actions and kind of a takeaways for the people who are listening. Number one, simply be aware. Are the words you are using limiting or creative? Simple. Number two, monitor your internal dialogue, the self-talk, as well as your external language, which you project outside while you speak to your children or your co-workers or with your spouse. We end up doing a lot otherwise. Third, use abracadabra as a quick tool to notice when you are not using words that are moving you towards the future that you want to create. And just say abracadabra, and the shift is there. Number four, when you see the results that are not the results that you want, just under the surface check and consider whether or not the words that you're running or the pattern that you're running in your mind maybe is getting in the way. And last, journal it. Why not? Being educators, being parents, whatever is that you are trying to create, write about your conversations with your kids or any other person in your sphere of life until it brings a smile on your face. So these are all going to help you a lot. And of course, mind your language. And finally, having a great parenting and teaching experiences too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Sonal Ahuja. I think that abracadabra magic is going to work definitely. And, we all got to practice it. And if we don't get it, it'll be coming back. Of course, I know it will do. Thank you so very much. It was really an enlightening and a lovely session from you. Thank you so much. The Montessori method was developed by Dr. Maria Montessori in the early 1900s. It's a specific child-centered method of education that involves child-led activities, referred to as work, classrooms with children of varying ages, and teachers who encourage independence among their pupils. Dr. Montessori believed that children learn better when they're choosing what to learn, and that philosophy is present in Montessori classrooms today. A Montessori classroom looks totally different than what you used to. Well, we have more on this from Santwana Basu, our next speaker, who's going to speak on the influence of the Maria Montessori method today. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Swarleen. Thank you, Dr. Acharya. Thank you, Amrit, for introducing me here for for inviting me for this show today. And I'm really thankful to everyone. My topic is vast, but I have to maintain the timing and everything. So I like to share my screen. Am I able to share my screen now?
Team, can we please have a screen? She's not able to share the screen. Yeah, right, it is here.
Can you all see the screen? Is it visible?
Yeah, it is.
So from the morning, I'm listening such a powerful talk, such a powerful, beautiful talk from all the speaker. I'm learning a lot. And as a Montessorian, I love to learn. I love to listen first. So let us see today, I would like to focus on two things, Dr. Montessori's philosophy and Dr. Montessori's psychology. That is Montessori psychology and Montessori philosophy. I'll try to make it short and crisp. So let us visualize something. Let us all go to a trance. That as a short cry comes from a labor room and it announces the advent of a new life. And waiting starts from that time. Who is he? What he will be. So I am the child. All the world waits for my coming. All the earth watches with interest what I shall become. I am the child. I have come into your world about which I know nothing. I'm curious. I'm interested. I am the child. You hold in your hands my destiny. Give me those things that make for happiness. Help me, I beg you, that I may be the blessing to this world. So that is a child's apple. And as soon as he learns to walk, he wants to run. And as he wants to run, he wants to touch everything with his little hand. So isn't it something mysterious? So let us all think from Dr. Montessori's philosophy side. I'm just going to a short introduction. Dr. Maria Montessori, she was born 31st August 1870. 1896, she became the first woman doctor in Italy. 1913, her first international training course in Rome. 1907, 6 January, started her first Casa di Bambini, that is a house of children. And 1939 to next 1949, for next 10 years, she was in India and she gave a lot of training courses by that time. 6th May 1952, we lost her. Now, I would like to share this Dr. Montessori prayer and where we'll get a lot of light on this. Help us, O Lord, to penetrate into the secret of childhood so that we may know him, love him, and serve him according to the justice, following the divine will. This says everything. Knowing the child in a different way, loving the child in a different way, and serving for him. Because today, at this time, what we are looking, we all are connected for today's present generation, how to give the education, the child, and the future education. So Dr. Montessori's life was a life dedicated to tell the whole world about what she has witnessed. And it signified that the whole purpose of education was to turn mirrors into windows. And from her prayer, we get to know that knowing the child means know the laws of stages of development, how and when they take place, follow the nature's timetable, and a lot of things like individuality of the child, have faith in them that there is a power inside, the hidden power, the mysterious powers are there, and child is not just like a blank slate, or it's not an empty vessels. Excuse me. So what we have to develop that, we have to develop the proper attitudes. And if you just put the alphabetic, the numbers like A equal to 1 and Z equal to 26, you will get that attitudes is 100%. So what as an adult, we have to give that 100% involvement to the child. Now we'll see the steps in the Montessori house. So the child's brain is full of potentialities. So intelligence is there, already the willpower is there. So only through activity-centric environment, if we can give the proper activities at the right time, the right manner, then we'll see that interest will develop, finger movements will develop, attention span will develop, eye-hand coordinations, listening skill, speaking skill, memory, orderliness, and finally we'll see the child as an independent, happy child. So Montessori psychology says that, that psyche is the Greek word that mind. Mind means the logos, and logos is the Greek word that means the word. So the science that studies the function of the mind of the child. We have to prepare the child for his self-formations, since the baby cannot tell us what he is thinking. So what we adult, we are making a mistake that we take the child as a child. We should take her as an individual. We have to bend down. We have to go back to their childhood days. So then only we can follow the child. So Dr. Montessori did not decide to do any original work in the world of psychology, not based on any theory. It came into being on the basis of the discovery of secret of childhood revealed by children due to certain providential incidents. It happened at Cassidy Bambini, 1907. So 100 years back, you can see what she had said, and that is what we are still following. And that from that incident, we can see that children were interested in the materials. So all the materials are didactic materials. So children can use this and they can repeatedly use these materials. They wanted to see, know, and the place where the materials are kept. So they wanted to choose the material. Young children have the power of concentration and they have the power of observations. So these are the basic things. If we see that even today's also, when we are taking online classes, when we are taking offline classes, so when we are giving the instructions to the children and they are following our instructions, if the teacher's involvement is there, if 100% we are trying to involve how to give the method, not what to give, that is very, very important. So the knowledge of childhood is the foundation of Montessori psychology, and she has given this development starts from conception. So Dr. Montessori stressed that there are 4 stages of development in a human being from birth onwards: birth to 6 years, 6 to 12 years, 12 to 18 years, and 18 to 24 years. But we are focusing the most of the things, that is the birth to 6 years, that is a time for accumulations. So after that, the differentiations happens, then specific constructions, and finally they consolidate their ideas. So there must be some mysterious power. That is the first, this between this 0 to 6 years. So Dr. Montessori highlighted the power of horn, meme, sensitive power, and absorbent mind. Horme is something that is untiring driving force. Meme is something which is the retention power. The child can retain whatever they are absorbing through their sensorial experiences, and it all goes to their unconscious mind. So there is 3 to 6 years. The first, birth to 3 years, is the unconscious absorbent mind. So everything is going there. So the child can retain, they can retain all the memories. And 3 to 6 years is the conscious absorbent mind. So that is a time when we teachers are helping them to give them their world. And that is the world, what we are giving them with the 5 senses they are absorbing. They absorb just like a sponge, and just they can absorb the things, and it all goes to their unconscious mind. So Dr. Montessori saw how necessary it was to understand nature's law of development of the child as a builder of a human personality, the success plans of development and their characteristics, give them their world. That world is with their 5 senses that they can observe. And you must learn to listen before you can listen to learn. So effective listening involves much more that what we speak, that much more is what we have to give. So listening is very, very important. She has given language into 4 parts, like listening, then speaking, then reading, and then comes writing. So listening is very, very important for the first 3 to 6 years. Then come human tendencies, silence activity, characteristics of the developmental activity. These are the vast topics. The developmental activities means a lot of things, like the sensorial activities we have, language activities we have, number work activities, and also the EPL, that exercise of practical life, which helps them to develop that fine motor development and the gross motor developments. So according to Dr. Montessori, education is a natural process carried out by the child and is not acquired by the listening to words, but by experiences the environment. So that is very, very important. It is very, very important that to know the environment with the experiences. And Dr. Montessori always said that it is whatever the idea I'm giving, you have to join with that idea. So I'm not going to all the lines line by line. Just I'm saying that purpose of the course, whenever she has given the course, was not to give your instructions, but to find more direct way to giving the future generations the richer culture. It must be given in another fashion. That is a new way. So we have to follow the child, and Montessori is a philosophy of life, something to think about, something to feel, and something to ask for faith. And it is only when we can change our outlook and we can change our attitude, then only it is we can use in everyday school life. So it is a point of arrival, it's not a point of departure. It is not a system, but a method, which means a path which is open-ended, and it is therefore flexible, not rigid. Montessori is interested in human development, childhood in particular, nature's timetable. One cannot see the method, one can only see the child. Study of the child is through observation, methodically, scientifically, and respectfully. And better relationship between the child and the adult, environment adapted to the needs of the child, that is very, very important. Child learn by doing, a child progress according to their needs, and originator of the method is Dr. Montessori. So I'm concluding my slides here. So main thing that what we have to do, we have to know the child so that we can respect the child, learn from the child, observe and with an open-minded and follow the child. Then only, even in this changing, fast changing world, we can unite with Dr. Montessori. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. We know we're running out of time, so we've got to be on the time, and we've got to show you the buzzer deliberately because it's the need of the hour. Well, I won't be taking much of your time. Thank you so very much. It was really an enlightening session, Santwana Basu. Next, we have with us Susan Thomas, who's going to talk about climate literacy and sustainability. Catch them early. Over to you, Susan Thomas.
Good evening, everyone, dear participants, people all over the world. You have speakers from different parts of the world, as well as a very, very special thank you to Dr. Dr. Vaswi, as well as her team from ECDF. To begin with, I think sustainability and climate literacy is something that I'm very, very passionate about. And I love to see that being done right from its early years. So I'll begin by sharing my screen, if you could enable me. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Hello?
Yeah, your
Yes,
screen is visible.
Yes, visible.
Yeah. Okay. So the topic is climate literacy and sustainability, and how this is a value, a habit that you need to inculcate to the children right from their early years. And I'd like to put it into context along with the NEP 2020, which is the National Education Policy, which talks about the early learners in the foundational stage. So what I'm going to be focusing is basically the kind of activities that you can do in this foundational stage. And it talks about how the success depends on the teacher on the ground level and in the schools. And I think in the previous speakers have also mentioned about how important the role of a teacher is as a facilitator, knowing her job, keeping all the plans in, ready, keeping her aids that she needs, the different activities that she wants to do, everything ready before she starts off with her lessons. And it has to be experiential and integrated learning. And it also talks about a holistic, flexible, and multidisciplinary kind of a curriculum for all classes across the board, right from the earlier years. And sustainability by itself is something that cannot be looked at in isolation. It has to be looked at as a multi-curricular, a cross-curricular kind of a thing that you can put it into whether it is numeracy, whether it is language, whatever it is that you're doing in your early years, you need to make it weave in climate literacy as well as sustainability into it. So touching the earth should become an everyday experience, where you need to get the children to feel nature, to feel that connect with nature, hug the trees, smell the flowers, maybe just spin around in the open on the grass. Now, these are ways by which there is cognitive development taking place, and especially the spinning that takes place also on the ground when a child just stretches her arms and spins around. There is a connect he or she is making with the ground at the bottom, and it is good for the left and the right development of the brain as well. So this is an excerpt from the NEP itself, which talks about environment awareness, a scientific temper, and evidence-based thinking. Now, this is something that the Padma Shri Jadhav had said, that textbook knowledge is not a contra, but we need to have children connect with the soil, connect with the environment, feel it, basically experiential. And we had the sustainable, the SDG goals as they are we have said many of these different sustainable goals that are there and inculcated into their lesson. So that way you will see that sustainability goes into it. Now, if you can see here, I've clubbed those 20 goals into, these are all related to social science. These are economics. These are environment, and these are governance. So environment, it's actually 13. Goal number 13 is something that you can embed into the curriculum very, very easily through different kinds of activities, which could be play-based. Because remember, what is it that we can do now? We have seen, we've heard in the past week about the different cyclones that have battered our coast on the East Coast as well, on both our coasts that are there. And we've seen the worst impacts of climate change, and these are going to be irreversible. So the best thing is, in order to reverse the impact, what we can do is make sure that we make our learners climate literate, as well as they know what their habits have to be if they have to be sustainable. Now, how do we embed sustainability at the foundational stage? Now, you can see here, these are all pictures that are taken in school or at home, especially during the lockdowns now, where you inculcate a love for nature. That is the easiest thing that one can do in these days. Children are at home, and it's possible even then to get this connect between nature as well as the child. So the curriculum has to include two approaches on a broader scale: getting children close to nature and imbibing the essence of sustainability and making their habits. Now, the pedagogy that you can use in the foundational years, the most important and frequently used one has to be the Playway Method. Both Froebel as well as Montessori had actually spoken a lot about the Playway Method, how children have to learn in the Playway Method. The basic science of human body and nature, love for nature, imbibing sustainable habits, identification of plants using the sensory approach, and these are topics that you can do during the circle time. Now, this is a sensorial approach where you can see here that this is what was done at school, but these are things that we can do at home when they are going to a park with their parents in a bubble. These are things that they can do. These are watering the plants, planting them, and as they grow older, they can move on into a bigger farm where they will learn how food is grown. So these are bigger pictures where children harvest the vegetables and take them home. Now, this is another twinning act which can easily be done at home, where the children must learn how to grow the seeds, take care of it, and how the sapling they can give them a name and call it as their best friend and learn how to take care of them. So empathy also comes in there. So these are other pedagogical approaches, like you have the Amelia approach where they hear stories that are told to them out under the tree. They either act it out with puppets, songs, mime them. So this is one approach. Artivism is where you use art as an activity along with a explanation. So this is another way in which you have a role play, and all these you're giving them actually ideas on how you can create sustainable habits. So these are eyes shut and you feel the tree, you feel the leaves, you put a shank to your ear and can you hear the sea roaring in it? So these are all doable things that you can do even at home. Now, saying the 5R mantra is something that has to be practiced and be embedded in the policy itself so that children learn, reduce, reuse, repair, recycle, and rethink right in their early days. So these are flashcards that you can use in order to teach children how to reduce.
Susan, we are running short of time, please.
Yeah. So learning to compose during the roly-poly, nature hike, these are things, activities, how you can waste segregation being taught, zero waste lunch boxes. So these are positive parenting, where during this pandemic time, you have to have your parents also on board, and you need to have them right from their younger age, learning with nature and touching and feeling and appreciating nature. Forest bathing is something else, also something that we can do. We can do balcony bathing these days since we are mostly at home. And these are other ideas that can be used around. So children learn to
I think there's a connectivity here.
observe and then
I think there's a connectivity error because we can't hear.
Okay.
Yeah. Susan, we can't. No. Your voice is cracking a lot.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, but we're almost running short of time.
Okay, fine, that's fine then. I in fact, I don't know if you saw the pictures, but I did conclude it.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. I just a little request again that please be on time. 8 minutes is the time that we can give because we're running really late. Well, research shows 3 important processes shape young children's development in early learning. And we refer to these processes as 3 R's: relationships, repetition, routines. The next set of speakers, in fact. Thank you, everyone, from the first set of speakers who've been already there. We invite the second set of speakers from this slot from 2 to 4 p.m. As we are already running late, I must quickly about the next speaker who's there, Garima Tiwari, our 3R framework for early childhood learning in the pandemic era and beyond. Garima, all over to you. Please be on the time.
Thank you, Swerling. And thank you, Dr. Vasavi and ECDF for organizing this wonderful summit. I'll, not take much of the time and quickly start with my presentation. I am Garima Tiwari, founder and CEO of India's first and only bespoke learning supply store, Creative Express. And today I'll talk about our 3R framework for early childhood learning in pandemic era and beyond. Here the 3R stands for rethink, restore, and rejuvenate. Before I deep dive into the presentation, I would like to have, I don't know why I'm not able to put it in the presentation mode. Okay. Before I start with the presentation, I would like all of you to pause for a minute and take a look at these pictures. A bird in a cage, birds in a simulated enclosure, and free birds flying in the sky in a rainforest. Keep these 3 pictures in your mind because we'll come back to this later.
May I request everyone else to be on the mute, please?
Yeah. Now let's look at the impact of pandemic on the preschooler. Last year, kids missed outdoor play opportunity, physical activities, social connection, meeting extended family, community gatherings, and fun time with friends. Instead, they got increased screen time, anticipatory grief, anxiety, developmental issues, sedentary life, monotonous routine, no discipline, hygiene paranoia, and a fear of disease. Research are showing that all these will have a long-term impact on our preschoolers, and these will manifest as depression in the teen years, anxiety that will last beyond the pandemic. There is a research which shows that there is a significant drop in the academic performance of this year's kids as compared to their peers last year. A report from UK also suggests that when these preschooler or early learners will enter the workforce, they will be less productive. With that, we now quickly check what was the learning in the pandemic era. Pandemic happened so suddenly, we were all caught unprepared. But then gradually, when we realized that education cannot be impacted, we all moved online, right? Government came up with this dedicated TV channels, radio stations, school moved online. Parents also opted for homeschooling subscription, which were online. Kids learned a lot about different kind of apps and the things of internet. We are conducting a survey amongst parents. This is an initial stage, but we have the trends, and it shows that 85% of parents still prefer offline mode of learning. What was lost? The pandemic impacted externally driven development in preschoolers, be it life skills, social skills, mental health, gross motor development, real world learning, and application of knowledge gained. What was crucial but suffered most, right? You imagine a nuclear family where both parents are working from home. They are also working for home because now they don't have any house help to support. They have less time to connect with their child. This is leaving parents with increased stress level due to the guilt. And the child is also bored with the monotonous life that it has to follow for last 1 year. Now, what is the need of the hour? The need of the hour is to fill all the gaps that I've identified in the first 3 slides. We need to, as a community, come together, bring all stakeholders in the early childhood management to work together in a more collaborated manner to achieve and facilitate overall child development at home and make it more efficient. Why I am emphasizing at home model? Because for next 2 years, the pandemic doesn't seem to go away, and the preschooler will continue to remain at the home, and the primary uh, responsibility for education and learning has now shifted from the school to the parent, and these parents are investment bankers, IT professionals, cops, doctors, engineers. They are not expert in early childhood education, and so a lot of things are missing because of this. And this is where we as a community need to pitch in and coach and facilitate these parents so that the smaller things that we are not able to look now but will have a long-term impact can be mitigated. And this is where, for our parent community, we came up with a framework called 3R framework, wherein we help our parent network to create a more conducive, sustainable, wholesome, and experiential environment inside their home for their young learners. The 3R here stands for rethinking the learning, how it is done, restoring the experience that kids have lost last year, and rejuvenate life itself. Now let's look at the individual R's. So we are saying rethink how learning will be done this year. So we are saying that you take your current learning model, identify the core learning objective from that, combine it with developmental needs of a child, and then come up with these 4 things. Ideas to enable teachers to maximize activity-based interaction with the students. Even today, you are doing hybrid model, right? The blended learning. What we are saying is that keep the online 20% and make the offline 80%. So give them enough resources, enough ideas to kind of, do activity-based interaction at home to learn the same concept. We have to offer parents with home learning resources. It need not be a kit or something. You can give several ideas which you use in the classroom and pass it on to your parents so that they use their home resources and create that learning environment for them. Ask them to include role plays, fun learning games, and treasure hunts in their daily routine so that, child's daily life becomes engaging and fun-filled. And also ensure that They use their home setup. I understand that many of the people are living in small flat and they don't have the luxury to go out and play in a veranda or balcony. But then still, you can come up with ideas where you can uh, design games in which you can use your house setup and ensure that child gets enough physical activity around that. So this is the rethink. Next is the restore. What can be done? So we are saying that as a community, we need to try and simulate the outside world in their home, create a home environment that contributes to development of life skill, social skills, better mental health, improved motor skill, real world learning, a place where they can also apply the knowledge that they are gaining and also foster their curious mind. This needs to be done, and parents need huge support from the community because, as I said, they are not the expert in early childhood education. Rejuvenate, how to fix it, right? You need to make the life vibrant. You need to bring that emotional connect in their life on daily basis and ensure that there's positivity that is maintained in the house. This is what you used to do in the school, right? You had circle time and a lot of other activities which you used to do with the group of children and they used to look forward. This is not happening in today's world. So we need to come up with strategy that parent can use to daily connect with the child, create a comfortable environment for the child to grow and nurture them, and also ensure that there is a two-way communication between child and parent. Some parents are doing it, at some homes it is happening, but there are many homes where it is not happening, and we cannot blame parents for this. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that this generation of preschooler also get the same opportunity that their peers got last year or a year before the pandemic. Coming back to the same pictures that I'd shown you before. So bird in a cage, nobody wants. What we have ended up with is an enclosure where we can simulate the development environment for the child. And now with 3R, what we are suggesting is that you take the real world, which is the bird flying in the free sky, and try to simulate as much as in their home environment to ensure that their development does not get impacted this year or next year or whatever time the pandemic lasts. In the end, my request is as a community, we must collaborate, work towards mitigating the implication of pandemic on our little ones. Now we have created a small community for 3R framework on Facebook. If you're interested, you can join this. This is a non-commercial initiative from our end. And we would love as many people, as many educators to participate in it so that we can take the learning from this to our respective parent community. You can reach to me on my LinkedIn profile as well. Thank you. And this is my number in case somebody wants to connect to me. Hope I was on time, Swerling.
Thank you. Yeah, you were absolutely on time, out on time. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. And Restore, Rethink, Rejuvenate is a lovely, 3R initiative that we really look upon. And, the kind of exercise you're doing, really, we look forward that people join you more. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have with us Mandy Worsley, co-founder of Mini Minds Matter, a new company with a big mission to bring mindful moments to preschool children and their careers. She's going to speak on engaging a young child's mind through the use of daily positive affirmations and mindful moments. Over to you, Mandy. Mandy, you there? Right away we had a talk, she was there. Maybe some technical glitch that she's signed out.
Let's call Azura.
Azura, yeah.
Yeah.
Azura,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
All right, that's nice. That's great. Thank you.
All right, lots of familiar faces over here. Okay, so
from Malaysia, she's a pedagogical. She practices in biodiversity learning. She's going to talk about pedagogical practices in biodiversity learning. Over to you.
Okay, hi everyone. When I was doing an art activity with the small children during my first job as a kindergarten teacher, I've never thought that I would be here talking to all of you about pedagogical practices in biodiversity learning. Okay, my name is Azura. I am from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Currently, I am the head of early childhood program in Veritas University College. There, I design short courses for adult learners, basically mostly in early childhood education itself. So before I start, I would like to thank Dr. Basavi. What she did is really amazing, connecting us all over the world. Okay, I'll make some connections, great connections over here as well. Okay, I'm honored to be invited.
I thank Azura because she's taking up the ECDF zonal head in the Kuala Lumpur area. So she'll definitely spread the word and she'll be definitely bringing a lot of value to the educators out there. Thank you, Azura.
Hopefully, thank you. All right, so I'm honored to be invited again, Dr. Basavi, to share some of my knowledge. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, I used to talk very fast, so I hope I keep my time, okay? So yeah, all right. So biodiversity learning is actually one new topic in the spotlight currently. So let's look into the knowledge of biodiversity learning. My screen is visible, right? Is my screen? Okay. All right. So the biodiversity knowledge involves ecological and environmental, social and cultural, economic and sustainability, which I think Susan Thomas already mentioned about it. But okay, now let's see how children develop their biodiversity concept. If we look into like a continuum of a conceptual understanding. So how do the children develop their biodiversity concept? So we cannot avoid the incorporations of science concepts and alternative concepts that the children already have. So, and these two concepts gel in non-linear ways. So we also cannot dismiss the fact that the children also have other experience in their life. So this is how the biodiversity concept, conceptual understanding develop in children's mind. All right. So if we look into the pedagogy, I believe all of us here, we are all teachers, educators, so we know what pedagogy is, but let me refresh some of it. So pedagogy is method of teaching, knowing what to teach and how to teach, and a professional is a professional practice for a teachers. And there is pedagogy looks different in every context, and there is no one universal approach. There is your pedagogy is right, my pedagogy is wrong. There is no one universal way. Okay, so let's look into the biodiversity learning. So in biodiversity learning, we have no choice but to involve our teaching with places, people, and things. Because the knowledge in biodiversity learning itself, as we talked just now, is about ecological, environment, and environmental, social and cultural, economic, and sustainability. So our biodiversity learning cannot avoid the places, people, and things. Okay, so let's see. All right, so what is the pedagogical approach that we can use in biodiversity learning? Okay, if we talk about pedagogical approach, okay, Susan talked about this as well. We have learning theories. Children learn through audio, visual, okay, and there is also a teaching philosophy, okay, multidisciplinary, behaviorism, constructivism, a lot of other approach that is never ending. If I'll list down, is never ending. There's a lot of approach. Okay, but what is the best thing? What is the best pedagogical approach that we can use to teach biodiversity learning to children? Okay, whatever it is, when I look into the biodiversity learning, you need to, it can't be too rigid because it involves prior knowledge of the children itself. Because biodiversity learning involves just now that the culture, the family, right? So it involves the prior knowledge of the children, where which comes from their family, places they live in, community they are in, and also the culture. Did I mix it just now? Okay, so it can't be too rigid because we have to look into the prior knowledge of the children. Okay, so we really need to rethink our pedagogical approach and belief about how young children acquire biodiversity skills and knowledge, because, oh my God, okay, because respectful educators lead to competent learners, okay? So in children belief in, we have to take care of a children belief in biodiversity learning, okay, which comes from informal and formal education. Okay, so informal is a knowledge they get from in a meaningful and respectful way. This informal learning in biodiversity learning for children normally come from their families. Okay, the culture they live in, what the family shares with the kids, okay, about recycle, about the community, okay, and then the formal is a successful transition between home and early childhood setting. The formal learning is actually our past. So how we weave this two knowledge together, okay. Okay, because we know that learning is most effective when the educator consciously takes into account children's everyday concept. Okay, and we also need to think about our belief. Okay, we need to ask our questions to ourselves: what belief or theory shapes our practice? Do we believe, like, for example, I always talk about this. I feel icky with a member. I cannot touch a member. I cannot touch a cat or dog or something because I feel so icky. So how do I? That is my belief, that I feel that it is icky, things like that. So how do I teach children about mammals without transferring the ickiness to them? Okay, things like that. Okay, what practical aspect of pedagogy are effective in your practice? And then does what you say you believe match up with what you actually do? So yeah, in biodiversity learning, best pedagogical practice, whatever you choose, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, integrated learning, whatever it is, you must remember to weave these two aspects together, which is educators' belief and children's belief. Okay, we really need to look back into it, because in biodiversity learning, it involves the whole lot of things, not only our curriculum. So that's all. Thank you. All right, please connect with me. That's my phone number, and I'm on LinkedIn.
1 minute.
So.
You have 1 minute, Azura. That's the 7-minute bell. You've got 1
No,
minute.
it's fine. I timed it nicely this time. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. That was real quick and prompt, I must say. Thank you so very much, Azura. All right, we have next with us, if I think Mandy is here back, because she was, she's again not in the meeting. That's worrisome, because she wanted to be there. But anyways, we have Jyoti with us. Jyoti,
Sorry, I am here. Go next.
Oh, Mandy is here.
Oh, yes.
All right, great. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies, so much for having me join you on this meeting. I'm Mandy Worsley, and I'm over in the United Kingdom. So hopefully my connection will stay for the few minutes that I wanted to talk to you. Thank you so much for asking me to be part of this amazing Sorry, that was my timer. So my background is in health. I was trained as a nurse, as a children's nurse, and worked for the NHS for over 30 years in the UK before working for myself for the last 5 years. I also am very keen on working with children that have maybe gone through trauma, because I adopted my own children and are now foster babies. So I have a real passion for helping children with their emotional health and well-being. And my new business is looking at preschool age children. So I really just wanted to talk to you today about the importance of affirmations, because we feel that by giving them these positive affirmations every single day, we are interacting with their brain, we are building new neural pathways. So first of all, I'm sure I'm teaching you guys everything you know about the brain already, but hopefully for people that are watching this, we teach children about their brain in a really, really simple way, so that they understand how their emotions work, how their body, how they get feelings in their body if they're stressed or worried or anxious. So we describe, so you've got your prefrontal cortex, you've got your amygdala, and you have your hippocampus. But in the training that I do, I trained as a coach called Relax Kids, and we call it your owl brain. So the front part of your brain is like an owl. So a wise old owl that is thinking, that is concentrating, that is listening. But then in the middle, your emotional part of your brain, we describe it like a little meerkat. So they're always on high alert, looking out for danger, keeping you safe. And then your hippocampus, we describe that as an elephant. So that is your memory, because an elephant never forgets. So what we want to do is we want to really interact with that meerkat part of your brain. So by describing it in this way to really young children, they can really understand, and they get to understand what we call the meerkat moment. So if they're getting upset or they're worried or they're anxious, they know that that little meerkat part of their brain is being affected. And by doing positive affirmations every single day, you are building a new pathway to that part of your brain to help it to calm down and relax. So what we have done, we have invented a little character, and he's called Wellosaurus. So he's a little dinosaur that the preschool age children have in their nursery classroom, and they can talk to this little dinosaur anytime, any day. So they go over and they will pick him up, and they will say things to him such as, I am happy, I am kind. So we've written meditations and poems around Wellosaurus and his friends. So we have other dinosaurs. So this little one is Happyosaurus. So we have 12 different characters, one for each month of the year. So all preschool settings, my vision and my aim with my colleague who has a 30-year experience in early years is to be able to use these characters for young children, something that they can relate to, that they feel comfortable and confident at such a young age to be able to talk to these characters. So we have then obviously done some affirmation cards, if you can see them here. So this is Wellosaurus. So they would go up and they would pick up a little card each day. So this one says, Wellosaurus says, I am well. This one is Wellosaurus says, I am an amazing Wellosaurus. Then we have all sorts of different characters. So here we've got Kindosaurus. So Kindosaurus will say, I am kind. And as I say, we have Happyosaurus, which I was just showing you here, my little happy dinosaur. So here we have our little cards, and this says Happyosaurus says, I am happy. So these are the things that we are trying to introduce initially in the UK, but obviously it can go all over the world. And I'm so excited to be able to share this with you today. But the importance is, why are affirmations important? We all know that our brain is wired to be negative. It is wired to look out for danger and to keep us safe. We have thousands and thousands of thoughts every single day. So we need to teach our children to tap into those positive thoughts and to have more positive thoughts than negative. And as I say, when you practice something, if you have a new skill, it takes practice. We have to do something over and over again for it to become embedded and for us to build a new neural pathway in our brain. So if we can build affirmations into our young children's lives at a preschool age, that means that they will be equipped with the tools for life, so that when they come across any kind of stressful situation in their life, they will know that they are strong, they are happy, they are relaxed, they are kind. They will build that inner confidence and that inner strength, but they have actually changed their brain and their brain chemistry. So that was really all I wanted to say today. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I really look forward to connecting with all of you on a much deeper level really, really soon. So thank you.
Thank you so very much. It was real quick, and I think was within the time, less than time, in fact, I must say. Well, anybody, if has any questions, can please go ahead. Next on the line, we have Jyoti Ranjan. She conducts workshops and exhibitions related to STEAM hobbies where children engage in activities. So that's a wow factor. Jyoti Ranjan, over to you. The floor is all yours.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share this platform with fellow educators from across the globe. And thank you so much for your precious time, like patiently listening to each and every speaker since morning. And I'm very thankful to Dr. Acharya for this invitation. It has been a great learning experience since morning, listening to several speakers. And today I will share my views about how hobbies can change the personality of a children and influence their future career choices. And why do children need hobbies? What are its benefits and how they can start the collecting hobbies? So why do children need hobbies right from the early childhood? 30 years ago when I was in school, almost 80% of my classmates had some sort of hobby. And they had beautiful collections of stamps, coins, leaves of different plants and trees, autograph collection, photography stores. They were all indulgent in some kind of a hobby. And most of us used to show it to each other and share. But today, with this internet revolution, internet has dominated everyone's lives, including the children. And they are all interested more into this YouTube videos and video games, television watching. And more so during this pandemic time, the children's screen time has tremendously increased. They're always like watching TV or watching YouTube videos during their spare time. And this online education has also increased their screen time. The social distancing and social isolation have also resulted in nearly twofold increase in the children's smartphone screen time. The British Psychological Society warns that too much of screen time for young children can unintentionally cause permanent damage to their still developing brains. Their ability to focus and concentrate and to build a large vocabulary, all these abilities are harmed because of this increased screen time. In fact, according to a survey conducted by Lego Toys to honor the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11 landing, 30% of the UK and US kids express their desire to be a YouTuber. This is the best career choice for most of the kids. So whatever these kids are doing today will influence their future career choices. This is happening mainly because most of the kids have never experienced the rewards of a hobby. So now I'll tell you what are the benefits of a hobby. Hobbies are good for the mental health of children. Child psychology experts agree that any type of interest a child has outside of a school can be helpful in getting away from the routine and conformity of the classroom. Hobbies are great workouts for brains as it helps get away from the stress of academic life. It enhances the child's problem-solving abilities, helps building confidence, setting achievable goals, strengthen the fine motor skills, and develop their critical thinking skills. Apart from providing time with the family and friends. Hobbies will also limit their television watching time and protect them from the negative effects of this television and YouTube videos. And hobbies are also expressions of personal accomplishment and a means of self-discovery. Thematic collections, like based on various subjects that are being taught in the school, will enhance and increase their general knowledge about the world. Most importantly, the hobbies are educational tools, as well as the schools are mainly focusing on STEAM education these days, which is an inclusive education which involves the science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths. But to effectively implement STEAM education, we must encourage the STEAM hobbies first. Then only we can because the STEAM hobbies has a multidisciplinary approach. There could be several STEAM hobbies, but here I will discuss only about the hobbies of collections. In 16th century, the collections of individuals were called the Cabinets of Curiosities, as they believed that only curious minds could make a notable collection. The hobby of collecting includes seeking, locating, acquiring, organizing, cataloging, displaying, storing, preserving, and maintaining items that are of interest to an individual child. Every child develops some sort of interest or hobby in their childhood. And from the age of 3 to 10, the children have the habit of collecting toys, the miniatures of cars, animals, dolls, etc. They love to collect, but they don't know how to build up a collection in an organized manner, which will have some kind of value in future. So here collecting is also associated with the memory by association and need for the human brain to catalog and organize information and give meaning to one's actions. Starting a collection is really a fun activity for kids, as it is a sort of a treasure hunt for them. The age of the credit cards, debit cards, and mobile phones and emails, today's children have very less knowledge about coins and stamps collection, as most of them have never seen them, as their parents have never used them. 2 years back, the Goa Board of Secondary and Higher Secondary Education has laid stress on starting philately clubs in the school, as they believe that nowadays this collecting stamps has not only remained a hobby, but has blossomed as a full-fledged science of philately. Because the thematic collections has been a boon in philately. It is a subject-wise collection of butterflies, flowers, birds, fish, boats, aircrafts, spacecrafts, astronomy. It's an inclusive hobby that includes all the subjects. And for developing these hobbies, they will have to refer to some kind of an extra information from books, from internet, from somewhere else. And this will make them more curious. They will ask more questions. It will also introduce them to self-learning. They can also start collection about biodiversity, flora and fauna, which is a favorite of so many kids. They can also start with like astronomy and space. Space is a #1 theme of collections, of the collectors all across the world. All these collections actually tell some kind of a stories. And we must motivate a child to plan an interesting activity around her collection, which will make them a great storyteller, because every collector wants to tell about their collection to the audience. And here the teachers, their fellow friends, their parents, they can all be, provide a great support to them in how to present their collection. And they can, even the schools, the teachers, they can also organize their exhibitions in a small way. So not taking much of a time, I just want to conclude by saying that hobbies are a rewarding and enriching part of one's life. We need to encourage our kids to explore their interests and find a hobby of their own for both health and happiness. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. It was so much well in time. Thanks a ton. And we really made it nostalgic by talking about the stamp collection and the poster collection that we used to do earlier in times. Well, thank you so very much for reading out. Next on the list, we have Kruti Sangvi Mehta. Talking, understanding others, and knowing what to say are really important skills in life. Being able to communicate helps children make friends, learn, and enjoy life to the fullest. You will be your child's first and the most important teacher. Well, Kruti Sangvi Mehta is going to talk about interactive ways to boost language development in early years. Stage is all yours.
Thank you, Swarleen. I hope I'm quite audible.
Yeah, you are.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Kruti. My topic is interactive ways to enhance language development in early years. Language development skills are critical to one's growth. Language development plays an integral part in socializing, learning concepts, following instructions, and communicating one's thoughts and feelings. During the first 5 years, stimulation of language development is essential as the brain is developing new nerve cells as well as multiple connections between these cells to serve the function of expressive and receptive language. Lack of stimulation during this time could result in a child making slower progress or end up with poor communication skills. So how can we promote language development in children? Yes, stories. We all know storytelling, story reading, guided reading, all are essential to language development. But how do we bring in the wow factor in this? Read books that has gibberish words, books that have rhyming words, books that uses sound words. For example, Toddle Waddle by Julia Donaldson, or Where's the Wallet in My Pocket by Dr. Seuss, the book with no pictures by B.J. Noack, or Lion Lessons by John, and so on. These books really connect to these children. The idea here is to use expressions, modulation, and correct pronunciation to encourage children in building up their language skills. Often, these key components are neglected by the educators. Teach children to recognize sounds, blends, and read with help and later on they can read independently. Take one step at a time. The best teacher would be the one who would read with the child along with in the class. Use a lot of picture books, peekaboo books, show picture talks, where the scenario of jungle or monsoon or supermarket or anything is at view for the child so that they can initiate conversation that interests them. Do lots of rhymes and music. Music can help us retain words and expressions much more effectively. You will notice that children often sing much complex words and follow a sequence than that they would speak in routine conversations. Add movement to the music and add a vocabulary such as up, down, jump, run, twist, wriggle, and so on. Play musical games. All these are going to add up to their language building skills. Play games. And I'm going to list down a few of the games. If you have a doubt on it, you can ask me later on the chat. I Spy, Dumb Charades, or Pictionary for the older kids, match sound to the picture, treasure hunt of the sounds, find the odd sound out, let's rhyme, telephone game, Chinese whispers, sequence the story and narrate it. What if there's no sun? What if there's no water? Let them think and talk about it. Word chain, guess who, spin a tale. You may use Rory's story cubes for the same, or even paint stones and let the children narrate story on their own. And memory game. In current scenario of digital learning, language skills enhancing activities may be planned, explained to the parents, and be played accordingly. There are multiple games with little tweak can be played on digital platform itself. Use a lot of descriptive words even while you are teaching. You may say this is an apple. Why not say this is a red apple? Can you hear it when I bite on it? What kind of sound it makes? Oh, that's a crunch. The apple is crunchy, and so on. Yes, your lesson plans will get a little longer, but the efforts of using descriptive words in teaching is going to add up to your child's vocabulary. Describe the sky, the leaves, tiger stripes, a donut, just anything that interests your class. Say funny words, crack up jokes, ask a riddle, teach them tongue twisters, and wait till the class bursts into laughter. Give an opportunity to each child to talk. They may just hold up their favorite toy and just say 2 lines on it, but that encourages them to talk. Children will pick up lots of words while playing. Example, they're playing with clay. So teach them the words associated with clay play, such as roll, stretch, cut, shape molds. Something with sand play, strain, wet, build, castle, shape, molds, tunnel. It's with all kind of play, the messy play, blocks, even drawing. Children love pretend play, and that gives an educator a shining moment to encourage language development in children, whether they talk to themselves or in a group or a friend. Encourage any kind of play in children. Talking to the children is the key to build up language skills. Talk about anything that they are interested in. Ensure that you speak in clear language and use correct pronunciation. Avoid bombarding them with information with barely any interaction. Ask them questions for which the answer is not mere a yes or a no or just pointing out a thing. So I'm going to give you a few examples of how the questioning can change. Instead of asking, where is the green color car? You can ask, what color is this car? So instead of pointing out, they're going to say the color. Instead of saying, look, this is a helicopter. Can you see a helicopter? Ask, what do you think this is? Instead of saying, find me a watermelon in this picture, you may point out at the object and ask, can you tell me what this is? Label equipment, toy organizers, furniture, anything in the premise to guide children to place the material in the correct place. This invariably builds language skills and reading skills. Use think, pair, share model to encourage children communicate with a friend and share the thoughts with each other on a given topic. Soon you will hear your kids talking constructively in the classroom. As an educator, you may provide an enriching environment for learning and growth, plan a daily exercise that focuses on language development in children, inculcate the habit of quality circle time on regular basis to promote positive expressions and connections. Set an objective for your lesson plan on language development. I feel a brilliant lesson plan is wasted if planned without a set objective. Instruct the children with clarity in your mind. Clear and repeated instructions means half work done. Read aloud a story to them on daily basis. Ask questions about the story after that. The crucial part is in the art of questioning and conversing that changes the outlook of language development in the class. Consciously find sections in your lesson plans where the changes can be made either in the information imparted by you or questions asked by you. Ask yourself, am I asking the question right? Am I anticipating answers from the children, or it is just one way parting information session? Never ridicule or criticize any child's speech or attempt to converse or any topic of conversation. Make an effort to graph the progress of each child using multiple rubrics set by teachers. This would enable you to plan further sessions and encourage you to do better. While you are at it, utmost patience, encouragement, and dedication is required from your end. Be patient and wait till the child finds the space to initiate a conversation. Wait for them to respond. Giving them prompts and eagerly waiting for their response will encourage them to talk. Never hush to complete their sentence for them. Be affirmative to their response. Activities to enhance language development in preschool children should be consciously designed and embedded in school curriculum to actively involve children and develop language as a whole. Using common, multiple native or foreign languages in early years is an added advantage. Thank you, ECDF and Dr. Acharya, for bringing in this beautiful event together. Thank you, Swarleen. You have been an amazing host. Thank you, fellow speakers, for sharing their knowledge with all of us.
Thank you so very much, Kruti Sangvi. It was really an inciting share, I must say, and everybody must have definitely made the most from this. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Next on our list, we have somebody who's going to talk about student-centered learning. As student-centered learning has been gaining consideration in the past few years, shifting the focus from teachers to learners. And in teacher-centered education, which is probably the way the majority of today's teachers were taught, the most active person in the class and the one whose brain is processing the most is the teacher. Students acted as the passive recipients of information and seldom got the chance to take ownership of their own learning. This has had negative consequences for both students' motivation and personal development. Student-centered instructions help students cultivate a can-do attitude and allow for autonomous and active learning. Sonia Jerath is going to talk about child-centric approach in virtual teaching, and I think that's actually, she's mentioned clearly, need of the hour. Over to you.
Hello, Swarleen, and thank you for having me here. Before I begin, I would like to thank ECDF and especially Dr. Vasudev for building such a wonderful platform wherein we all educators and parents could collaborate. I had closely listened to my co-speakers and I'm exhilarated to be a part of such powerful platform where the motive is to spread knowledge and work for the betterment of growing citizens. In the morning, I heard Mrs. Hardeep sharing data on early years during the pandemic, but I have a different story to share. My topic of conversation today is child-centric approach in virtual teaching in early years. Is it the need of an hour? Is it important for the child's growth in early years? Is it possible in virtual settings? Are the teachers equipped to provide it? Will the classes can be driven by the child? These were the common queries which surfaced when we adapted the new norm of education in virtual classes. Not only the parents were anxious and had doubts on the virtual classes, but also the educators faced plenty of challenges, majorly because of the time constraints and online setting, that there was no physical school, no physical touch, and yes, no physical monitoring of the students. So the biggest challenge was to remodel and tweak the curriculum so that the child-centric approach was enabled. Among the chaos generated, somewhere the child had to get benefited, as the researchers had rightly mentioned that the maximum brain development happens at the age of 0 to 6 years. And a gap of 1 or 2 months, or even a year, or even an unstructured stimulation could slow down the development of the brain, which in turn can turn learning difficulties. So the structured learning, whether physical or it's virtual, had become imperative for the child's benefit. And at the same time, online learning was rapidly becoming the most co-effective way to impart knowledge and information. We're aware that the child-centric approach encourages the children and teachers to take learning into their own hands, whereas it is supposed to be directed or prompted by the teacher. Children can take responsibility for making choices about what they learn or explore, and the teacher only has to understand the cues and watch their interest to develop and create an appropriate curriculum for each individual. This approach turns the little ones into active participants who are capable and competent learners, as each child actively engages in experiences of high interest to them. It enhances their motivation and intrinsic desire to learn. Thus, we develop each student and each child as a lifelong learner, an astute thinker, and of course, a creative contributor. So it was required to create an environment in which the early years students were the epicenter of the approach, and it should be driven by the classroom, taking care of their emotional, social skills, and of course, making sure their holistic growth under the online setting. For enabling the child-centric approach, the child-centric environment needs to be provided, keeping in mind, again, the growth of the child, of course. So there were 4 major factors which directly impacted the child's life. And these were parents, facilitators, peers, and the favorable environment. During virtual classes, which we started, but it actually became virtual collaborative classes, we realized that the parents collaborated with us. The bond strengthened when they saw the growth of the children in online settings. The initial anxieties were shed as the platform had become a dual mode of learning for the parent and the child. A strong communication was built between the facilitator and the parent. The parent showed their belief in the system by participating in activities which were planned for each and every individual. The second important factor was the facilitator. And they had a prerequisite knowledge to train the students, but only in physical settings, not in online. So there were so many difficulties that we faced. The facilitators were empowered with know-how of technology, facing the camera under the tight scrutiny of parents, providing them the resources to effectively conduct the classes before they could enter the classroom. The third and an important factor were peers. Yeah, of course. Believe me, for a child, it means the whole world. They love to interact and look forward to meet them, thus developing on their social skill, which is again a very important aspect of skill sets in early years of education. During the online setting, students were given a window to communicate with their peers while having snacks, play dates, story time, and working in small group setups were introduced for effective communication. I could recall a conversation where the students were discussing the different climates as they were all placed in different states, towns, and spoke about the favorite food and the costumes they wore. They were all so excited to introduce their domestic pets to their friends. Few took them to their orchards, gardens, and even farms, where they had actually grown some different variety of vegetables, fruits, and believe me, it was an enthralling experience for all of us. The last factor, coming to the favorable environment, could only be provided if we give them the right opportunities in experiential setup. Now, provide with a bundle of opportunities, and if the child's emotional well-being is taken care, and above all factors are also provided, it opens him to the world of learning with a better understanding and grasping of concepts. Here I'm glad to share my experiences as we incorporated many child-centric activities at Gopal Sharma Blooming Buds, which allowed the child to choose, think, experiment in an experience even in the virtual setting. The facilitators made small groups to ensure that each child was involved and their opinions were respected. We initiated to build a strong bond with our students by giving them a virtual school tour, which brought down their anxieties and settled the little ones. The nursery students who had never learned in a small window could also connect to the facilitator and enjoyed the learning of concepts, as they were involved with so many gross motor activities. To engage in experiential learning, a Sci-Fi was conducted for level 2 students, in which they were given the choice to select the topic of experiment and project-based learning. The Sci-Fi was conducted over a period of 1 month, which enabled each student to think, analyze, and observe their findings and present it to the peers. Taking all of us by surprise, the children figured out technology and broke preconceived schemas and barriers quicker than adults. They figured out how to communicate and collaborate on virtual platforms, being themselves, which led to the idea of conducting Technological Day, where students showed their skills by presenting PPTs made by them and labeling the mobiles with their names. And believe me, in no time, they could chat with the teacher and the peers, and even the beginners could also join their names with alphabets. So as we complete one academic year and now progresses to yet another year of virtual settings, it is time to ponder on new ideas and future planning, as each and every child is unique and requires a personal touch. Yes, the child-centric approach in an online setting is the need of the hour. The journey of this no physical school, just 2 more minutes, the journey of this no physical school was full of new beginnings, and there were new ideas and new collaborations. Today, we, the educators and parents, together hold the responsibility to ensure that we touch each one of their lives who are relying on us for their overall growth in the formative years. With this positivity, I would like to conclude and quote Keith Beckman, said, in times where small instructor-led classrooms tend to be the exception, electronic learning solutions can offer more collaboration and interaction with experts and peers. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Sonia. It's the part of my duty that I have to go for a buzzer again and again to remind you all. Well, because we are running really short of time, and Catherine is really waiting for me to go now. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Berlin. Thank you.
Insightful session, and we really enjoyed it. Well, it was, I didn't know, actually time flies. And yes, I know, because we are running short of time, so it flies a little earlier. Well, it's my set of speakers is over. I'm now relaxed just to sit and listen to my favorite ones coming up soon. But before I do that, I have to do a responsibility of sharing the stage, thanking Dr. Vasavi, thanking Dr. Amrit, and thanking Dr. Catherine for being here. Dr. Catherine, over to you. Let me first introduce the